Once the entrepreneur recognizes the opportunity, the next thing he does is starting to write a business plan. A business plan consists of the problem, the solution, the business model, underlying magic or technology, the operations behind, or any patents, trademarks you have, anything unique to you, and then marketing and sales, the competition and the industry, what industry are we in, the team composition, who are the founders, who are the shareholders, the projections and milestones, status and timeline, and finally the summary and call to action. However, in the recent Lean Startup methodology and the customer development progresses, instead of business plans, the business model is given more importance. Now let's see why. A business model is iterative. It's a working document. Whereas a business plan is firm, solid, and it's more like a final document. The business model has hypotheses and assumptions. On the other hand, business plan has projections and forecasts, and it's like as if we know the truth. The business model framework suggests we need to learn from customers, whereas business plan suggests we know what customers want. So this is why I have built this 100-page document. So read it, and this is how things are made here. So this is the guidebook. These are the rules. Business model says let's get out of the building and try to reiterate. The business plan says, okay, we can stay in the building. We know the truth. We can search online and we can write it because we know better than anyone else. Business model is a better tool for startups, for new teams. Business plan is a good tool for companies, and especially business model is a tool for unknowns, for unknown products, for unknown solutions, for unknown markets, and business plan is a good tool for the knowns. If we know the market, if we know the solution. So it's more like, the business plan is more like a tool for product development, and the business model is more like a tool for customer development. So let's see what a business model looks like. In 2009, a guy from Europe called Alexander Osterwalder came up with the framework of business model generation. He called it a business model canvas, and it's a great tool to see the business model all at once on a single page. And he defines business model from a marketing perspective. And see the similarities with the definition of marketing and the business model. A business model describes the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value, which is exactly the same definition of marketing. And here, this is the Canvas business model, and you see 9 building blocks for the business model. Here, you can think of this as a single sheet, which is a scorecard. And for a startup setting, I suggest you to keep this as a weekly scorecard. And weekly, you change your hypotheses and assumptions based on what you have learned in the previous weeks and based on what assumptions you have for the next week. So step by step, I can say the right part of this building blocks we can call as the value dimensions. So these are the parts that create value. And the left side we can call as the efficiency dimensions. In these parts, these are how we make the operations and reduce costs. And if we look one by one, the single most important element in this business model canvas, I can say, is the value proposition. That's why it's just at the heart of the canvas. And then the next part is the go-to-market plan, which involves the customer segments, customer relationships, and the customer channels. This is our go-to-market plan. And thirdly, we have the revenue model, which includes both the revenue sources and the cost structure. And finally, we have technology and operations management, which involve the blocks of key partners, key activities, and key resources. Now, let's look at each block one by one. So, in the value proposition part, this is our solution for the problem. So, this is what we offer, what makes us unique from the perspective of the customers that we target. So, it's about an innovation, satisfying a need or meeting a need. So, which unmet need that we are trying to solve? Do we have a differentiation strategy or a low-cost strategy? So, are we providing a better feature or a better design? Do we need strong partners? What are the switching costs? Do we need any network effects to build this product? So, do we offer better performance, or do we offer customization, or it's just meeting the needs, or is it better price, or is it about availability, affordability? So there might be lots of value proposition that we offer for our target segment. This is similar to the positioning statement in our marketing lecture. So this is how we position our product and which unsolved needs that we are trying to solve. And secondly, we are dealing with the customer segments. So which customer segments that we are targeting? So we can define it in terms of the demographics or in terms of the other segmentation variables that we have mentioned. Also, another important point here is whether it is a new market, it is an existing market, or it is a resegmented market. And let me tell you, it is always easier to tap into an existing market because customers already know what they expect, but which is also harder to be accepted because probably there is so much competition. On the other hand, for a new market, we can say this is the hardest to convince customers because they do not yet know what they expect, and it will require some time for them to adapt this innovation. So in many cases, maybe the best option would be to resegment the market and to create your own monopoly during this for these resegmented markets. For example, think about the low-cost airlines. Before low-cost airlines, the customers for the airline industry were people who can afford flight tickets. But the low-cost airlines, such as Pegasus in Turkey, Southwest in US, Ryanair in Europe, or EasyJet, they have resegmented the market and they could capture other customers who are willing to fly but could not afford. So they already knew what flying looked like, but they couldn't afford it. So low-cost airlines resegmented the market, and it was easier to capture people who were driving cars or who were going places with buses as well. Another thing for the customer segment is to understand what is their problem. What are they looking for? Why do they buy? So our task is getting out of the building and doing research to communicate and to understand with and from these customers. Third building block is the customer channels. So these involve both the distribution channels and the communication channels with the customers. So it can be either physical channels or the virtual channels. So it can be a physical product or a virtual product. So here we decide how we reach the customers, how we delivered the products, how consistent are our channels, which one of them works best, which one of them are cost effective, and how can we combine our channels with the customer habits. Channels also help customers for their decision-making journeys. This starts with awareness, evaluation, and continues with purchasing, distribution, and after-sales support. Fourth building block is the customer relationship. I have also talked about this during the go-to-market plan, go-to-market strategies part in our marketing class. As you might imagine this double-sided funnel as the marketing funnel. Here our aim is to acquire customers, to keep the customers, and also to grow the customers. Here, the customer relationship, this is the CRM part. I mean, for the companies as well, you might as well choose to communicate with the customers in a customized way, in a personalized way, or you might choose to communicate them in a self-service way, or you might automate this process, or you might even create a community to communicate with your customers, with your target segments, or you can create a co-creation mechanism. So the question is, what do customers want in terms of the relationship, and what kind of relationship do they request? How compatible is this request with our business model? How cost effective are they? So these are the questions that we need to answer for the customer relationship part. Another building block is for the revenue model. So we might have different pricing schemes, for which we have also mentioned in the pricing section in marketing. So are they willing to pay per transaction, or are they willing to pay variably, like per minute, for example, or per usage? Or are they willing to pay as freemium or professional or premium pricing? Or is it based on per click or per display, per viewership? Or is it just sales, or is it just renting? And also we need to understand for which value are the customers willing to pay? And how do they for what they buy or what they rent? Or is it for sales? Is it just fee? Is it for subscription? Is it for renting or licensing or commissioning, or is it just ad revenue? So these are the things that we need to think about. And also another block is the key resources. So what are our most important assets and resources? Are they financial? Are they physical? Are they cognitive? Or are they just human, just the human capital? Another block is the key partners. Do we need strong partners? Do we need key partners and suppliers to make this startup, this opportunity, to make it real? However, also please keep in mind that partnership on day one is really hard. So instead of relying on strong partners, you should partner with other also small companies which can be flexible to fit your needs even on day one when you have nothing, just the opportunity. So do you need strategic cooperations to make it work, which makes it even harder as well? Or do you need strategic partnerships, or do you need a joint venture? So these are the things that you need to consider. You can also consider if you need optimization or economies of scale in order to reduce risk and in order to reduce uncertainties. Key activities. Here, this is the part where you define your core business. What activities do you really need to have? Is it production? Is it problem solving? Is it supply chain? Or are you just a platform to bring together different parties? So you need to decide which activities to keep in-house and which activities to outsource. To what extent do you need vertical integration? This is an important decision to make. For example, Dell computers, which started in 90s as a computer which gives the option to customers to create customizable computers. They started outsourcing the production of a Taiwanese manufacturer, which is called Asus. Asus at the time were just producing some materials, and then they asked to produce the mother card as well. And Dell said, okay, why not? I mean, it will allow us to have more than 20% increase in our income. And then they created the motherboards. And then Asus asked, okay, why not assemble all the parts? And Dell said, okay, I mean, it creates a great economies of scale and it makes sense, so they made it. And step by step, Dell outsourced each production mechanism, each production process to Asus. But at the end, in 2005, Asus decided to market their own branded personal computer. So which was a risk? So this was a risk for Dell, and after Asus introduction, I mean, they lost their competitiveness. So this is an important decision to make. And finally, the final building block here is the cost structure. So here you need to decide on the cost items. What are the most important cost items? Which resources are most expensive? Which activities are most expensive? And also you need to look at your costs in a way that how can you change your cost structure? Should you change it from fixed cost to variable cost or vice versa? Can you create an efficient cost structure with scope economy or scale economy? And can you create opportunities for learning by doing? So these are the questions that you ask in this building block.